business, but well, in my perspective, that's also a necessity, because what they need to do is actually keep their customer base. For them, perhaps it's not so much of an increase of revenue in this new changed environment, but keeping the customer base that they already have until now. Now, a question comes to mind: why now? Why is now the time for all this? I think looking at the supply side, the answer is simple. I mean, the technology is now available. Next generation networks are now in the picture, and they are the ones that are giving us the opportunity for this kind of merged environment. So going from the past to the future, you have a past of vertical silos. I think previous speakers also mentioned that, of traditional telecommunication services and networks. And now we're moving into an environment where we have business support and operator support subsystems all over a unique IP platform. And this platform will be able to support, create, maintain, and manage all kinds of services that have to do with voice, with internet, with anything we know until now, and more. Looking at it from the demand side now, we also have to answer a different kind of question. Is actually the demand asking for it? So are the subscribers ready for it? Are they asking for it? Well, this is not a new slide, and forgive me for that, but we have the representative of the French telecom market. So even if the numbers are not entirely correct, these are 2007 numbers, but I think what's apparent is that there is a demand for it. I mean, if 40% of consumers back in 2007 were ready to take up bundled packages, then it gives you clearly an idea that there's an increasing need and an increasing demand for it. I will close this chapter of the new telecommunications model, the Telco 2, by just summing up and pointing out that this new Telco 2 model is basically standing on 4 pillars. The first pillar has to do with the fact that we're now looking at a two-side revenue model. We're not looking only at the traditional model where you get your revenue from your subscriber base, but you're also receiving now revenue from providing access, so to speak, to your subscriber base. And that means advertising. Since advertisers now want access to your subscriber base, slowly a new revenue stream is emerging. That takes me to the second pillar, which is actually the fact that today, or maybe into the future converged market, what's really important is the ownership of your subscribers, the ownership of your subscribers' base. And I think that's going to be key in the development of the new telecommunications model. Now, the third pillar right after that is actually the fact that this new Telco 2 model has a third pillar that says that it's not so much about network infrastructure anymore. So we're moving into an environment where infrastructure sharing might be a valuable consideration. It's not about who owns the network anymore, but who offers the services. And that takes me, of course, to the fourth and last pillar that says that in this environment, what's really important is who develops and offers the services. So we're talking about IMS, IP multimedia, services offered over different service development platforms, and that's the idea. Innovation about services is the new idea. And that takes me to the last part of my presentation, which is actually the implications for policymakers and regulators. And I will take a general approach that looks like the eye-scoping figure that you see on the slide over here. So the question that comes to my mind is how much has to change in the new regulatory environment? And I'm looking at this in 3 different ways. So we've got, as the eye-scoping figure starts, the objectives. The objectives are economic, social, that have a policy impact. Then we've got governance, which means how should the new market be governed? Should it be the industry making more of an impact in the market, or the regulator? Should it be governed by the regulator or the industry? Should we be talking about a converged media and telecom regulator or not yet? And the last part, of course, is the well-known regulatory levers that will be used to apply regulatory tools in the market. Now, each one of them separately, for example, the first one, the objectives. I think it's a common conclusion that you can draw, that the actual regulatory objectives do not change in the new environment, the next generation or the converged telecom media environment. Economic objectives, such as providing competition for the market or seeking lower prices for the consumer and so on, seeking growth in this market and increased impact on the GDP of a country, or looking for more investment and allowing that to happen. Those are objectives that do not change in the new environment. Also looking at it from a social point of view or a cultural point of view, again, I think the objectives do not change. Again, we're looking for cultural content, for national content, we're looking for consumer protection, we're looking for privacy. So we're looking at the same things. Perhaps it's the tools that change in this new environment and not the objectives. Now, I'm going now to the second part, the governance part. And over here you see two different lists. I think because the answer to the question whether we should or should not have telecom and media merged regulators is not one that should be answered in one unique way. The one list is of obviously non-converged regulators, and the second list is of those that have already gone into merging the two kinds of regulators. Now, there's not one single approach, and obviously has to do very much with the maturity of the market and even the maturity of the regulator to decide which one, how fast you can take the steps and how fast you can go into merging the two. Obviously, there are certain advantages into going into a converged regulator at some point. So I can think of increased resources. I can think of when we have a merged regulator. I can think even of having a greater and better grasp of the whole market, because the regulator understands both segments of the market quite as well. And also I can believe that the ICT stakeholders might relate to that even better, because they have one regulator that they have to adhere to the obligations that he imposes, that they impose. And they also have one-stop shop to go to in that direction. So I think the answer here would be to take it step by step. And I think a good example or a good approach is to start maybe starting from a few projects between the two regulators. A few projects as separate entities that will get the two regulators to work together, understand each other's commitments, each other's challenges and line of work better, before becoming a merged regulator. And this is my last slide. I would like to touch upon the last parts of the regulatory interventions, where obviously you have your well-known levers, regulatory levers, and well, our suggestion is that these levers, in the simple question that where do I begin, where does the regulator begin to regulate a new market and a new environment, is simply starting by putting priorities over these levers. So obviously one has to grasp the concept that not all of these regulatory levers are going to have the same kind of impact to the market. So it's totally a different discussion when we start talking about SMP designation and when we start talking about interconnection than when we talk about universal service, which perhaps needs limited change to fit the new environment. So I think again here the conclusion is that we have to take this whole merging into the new environment one step at a time, and also keep in mind the maturity of the market. The regulator cannot wait too long before they apply tools and their tools on the market, but they cannot rush too much, because that could also hurt the market. So thank you very much for your attention. We are available for questions.